Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram. Sit properly. Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Ram Ram Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Om Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Hare Krishna Hare Ram Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Ram Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Ram.
Go Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Need to pull the legs out a bit. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Kevala Bhakati Sadma Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma Bando Moe Savadhana Mate Bando Moe Savadhana Mate Jahara Prashari Bhai Vibavatari Ajay Jahara Prashari Bhai Vibavatari Ajay Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoy Te Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoy Te Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chite Te Kariyakya Padma Vakya Chite Te Kariyakya Anakari Homane Asa Kari Homane Shri Guru Charani Rati Aise Uttama Gati Shri Guru Charani Rati Aise Uttama Gati Jeprashare Pure Sava Asa Jeprashare Pure Sava Asa Chakudanu Diloje Jamne Jamne Prabhu Se Jamne Jamne Prabhu Se Divigan Hiri Prakasito Prema Bhakti Jahate Avijavena Sajate Prema Bhakti Veregai Jahacharito Veregai Jahacharito Veregai Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Armajanarabanu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Armajanarabanu Lokanath Lokarajivana Lokanath Lokarajivana Prabhu Kora Jaya Jaya Mare Parachaya. Jaya Prabhupada. Ha Prabhu Kora Jaya Jaya Mare Parachaya. Epijasa Gusukhi Bhuvana. Epijasa Gusukhi Bhuvana. Ha Prabhu Kara Daya Daya Mare Parachaya. Epijasa Gusukhi Bhuvana. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale. Prabhupada, let's say Swaminiti. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivase Sasunyavadi Paschachare Satarine Sati Deve. Jai Prabhupada. Nivase Sasunyavadi Paschachare Satarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura.
Asakundalam Gokule Jamana Yashoda Piyolukaladavamana Haramristyamajantato Jutyagopya Tamunitra Yukmamrijantam Haram Hoja Yukmena Satankanetram
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Gopijana Ballabha Girivardhari Gopijana Ballabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjanaya Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pariyavajakshayasta Tavasata Srimad His Divine Grace Abhoy Charanaravindra Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhana Ki Vrindavan Dhamma Ki Mayapur Navadvip Dhamma Ki Jagannath Puri Dhamma Ki Ganga Mai Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. This is text number 30 that's written on the board. So we'll recite it. Sachira in Gite Sambandha Karila Gatana. Sachira in Gite Sambandha Karila Gatana. Lakshmi ke vivaha kaila Sachira Nandana. Lakshmi ke vivaha kaila Sachira Nandana. Sachira in Gite Sambandha Karila Gatana. Lakshmi ke vivaha kaila Sachira Nandana. Sachira in Gite, by the indication of Mother Sachi. Sambandha, the relationship. Karila, made. Gatana, possible. Lakshmike, unto Lakshmi Devi. Vivaha, marriage. Kaila, executed. Sachira Nandana, son of Mother Sachi. Translation. Following the indications of Sachi Devi, Vanamali Gataka arranged the marriage. Thus in due course the Lord married Lakshmi Devi. Text 31. Vistariya Vanila Taha Vrindavanadas Eta Poganda Lilara Sutra Prakash. Vrindavan Das Thakur has elaborately described all these pastimes of the Lord's early age. What I have given is but a condensed representation of the same pastimes. Poganda Vyase Lila Bahuta Prakara Vrindavan Das Iha Karya Chena Vishtara. The Lord performed many varieties of pastimes in his early age, and Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has described them elaborately. Ataeva Dinmatra Ihande Kaila Chaitanya Mangale Savaloke Kyata Haila. I have given but a single hint of these pastimes for Vrindavan Das Thakur in his book Chaitanya Mangala. Now Chaitanya Bhagavat has described them all vividly. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Yara Asa Chaitanya Charitamrita Kahi Krishna Dasa. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I Krishnadas narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 15th chapter, describing the Lord's Poganda Lila. So the next chapter we're going on to the Lord's childhood and youth pastimes. Purganda is early childhood, then Kaishora Leela, and that's his youth and childhood. In this chapter, the synopsis, I'm not going to read this chapter or go into this chapter. This chapter describes the Lord's argument with Keshava Kashmiri, the celebrated scholar, and the Lord's criticism of his prayer glorifying Mother Ganges. In this prayer, the Lord found 5 kinds of literary ornaments and 5 kinds of literary faults, thus defeating the Pandit. Later, the Kashmiri Pandit, who was known to have been victorious all over the country, submitted himself to the goddess of learning, and by her order he met Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the morning of the next day and surrendered unto him. So that's in Chaitanya Caritamrita, that's the bulk of this chapter about the defeating of the Pandit, Keshava Kashmiri. The last 3 verses of the previous chapter glorified and offered praise and thanks to Vrindavan Das Thakur for his elaborate descriptions. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that he just gives a hint. Vrindavan Das Thakur is described elaborately. So I went and looked at the book of Vrindavan Das Thakur, the Caitanya Bhagavat, and found a very lovely description of this pastime. The Adi Kanda, chapter 13, is entitled Sri Nimai Defeats the Digvijay. So, begging your indulgence, I will read that and give a few comments upon what Prabhupada is saying, and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says in the Chaitanya Caritamrita. This is a broad description. In the Chaitanya Caritamrita there's a similar description, but then a few very detailed purports about Sanskrit grammar. Is anybody here into Sanskrit grammar? Okay. It's very interesting, very satisfying. So here's a little bit of the background from Vrindavan Das Thakur. Sri Nimai defeats the Digvijay. All glories to Lord Gaurachandra, the brightest lamp of the Brahman race. All glories to the Lord who inspires the deepest feelings of ecstasy in the hearts of all his devotees. Please shower your merciful glance on the conditioned living entities. All glories to the Emperor of the Brahmanas and the crest jewel amongst all teachers. All glories to the society of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees. This is Lord Chaitanya in his youth. The Lord of Vaikuntha Nimai was immersed in the mellow of an audacious, proud scholar. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, non-different from the Supreme Lord, is playing, is enjoying the mood of a scholar, an audacious, proud scholar. So he's in the right place at the right time. In those days, Navadvip town itself was an institution, housing many scholars and teachers well versed in all branches of the scriptures. Their sport was debate, and in their intolerant and impatient ways, they did whatsoever was required to win an argument. Lord Nimai's habit was to constantly rebuke the other scholars and refute their arguments right in front of them. There was no teacher in Navadvip who could confront the Lord's arguments and offer a second opinion. As soon as they saw the Lord, such fear gripped their hearts that they immediately became obsequious. Whosoever conversed with the Lord, even by chance, became his dedicated follower. Lord Chaitanya, he eventually took sannyas because the puffed up students and other Pashandis, impersonalists, they were avoiding him. So here, at this early stage, he's displaying his incredible erudition and intellect from the early childhood. He was a smart kid. Everybody, they heard about him in Navadvip. They were the scholars who were proud, who were capable. They would see Lord Chaitanya, and after having some experience or hearing of somebody else's experience with Lord Chaitanya, they would immediately become fearful, and they would drop that. They would just become humble before the Lord. This is the wonderful advantage, or the wonderful mercy of Lord Chaitanya, that he was playing, he was dallying amongst the students in order to curb their pride. Within their hearts, they all knew that Lord Nimai could never be defeated by anyone. Yet his illusory energy prevented anyone from knowing him in truth. Only when the Lord reveals himself of his own volition can one understand his real identity. Although the Supreme Lord is most munificent in every respect, it's entirely by his personal desire the one is able to perceive his confidential transcendental pastimes. In Navadvip, Lord Gaurachandra performed his transcendental pastimes in the mood of a scholar, deluding everyone about his esoteric identity. And then here, this chapter, this particular section, just highlights one interaction, one incident. And in the scholarly fashion, the Lord, he had his different pastimes and had different associates, just friends, school friends, and he would meet them and he would challenge them, he would debate with them, and they were at wit's end. He's such a great and enlightened and incredibly wise personality, but why is he not talking about bhakti? Why is he getting into grammar and logic? So in this instance, he's got a pundit, and we're going to describe him, who is considered to be Digvijay. Vijay, the controller, the conqueror of Dig. All of the different directions. In every direction, nobody could defeat him. The Chaitanya Bhagavat by Vrindavan Das Thakur, it's a slightly different language of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The Chaitanya Krishnadas Kaviraj has been taking from there, but he's just been summarizing not to expand too much, because you can go to the Chaitanya Bhagavat and get that information. So a little bit about the Digvijay. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Lakshmi Keshava Kashmiri is the name of this great pundit. It's listed his whole disciplic succession, his followers, and things like that. Here we're getting a broader overall picture. Once a very learned but supercilious scholar holding the title Digvijay came to Navadvip. He was a dedicated devotee of the goddess of learning Sarasvati, and he had received a blessing by chanting her propitiatory mantra. I've had devotee friends, and they were interested in collecting money. So one of them found the mantra for Lakshmi Devi, and he would chant that mantra, and he became very effective in collecting money. Prabhupada at one stage, his disciples approached him. They learned about the mantra for Ganesh. Can we chant the mantras for Ganesh, to worship Lord Ganesh? And Prabhupada said, yes, if you can give me $100,000 every day. Because if you chant the mantra properly, that will be the result. That will be evidence that you've got the mercy of Lord Ganesh. So here, the Digvijay, he's got the mantra to gain the mercy of Mother Saraswati. And it was said by the other scholars and people who had been affected by him that Mother Saraswati, she would speak on the tip of his tongue. The goddess of learning, the goddess of education, of knowledge, and he had her backup, so he couldn't be defeated. By his desire and good fortune, the Brahmana had received the benediction from Mother Saraswati to become a Digvijaya scholar. For her to give such a boon was effortless, for she is capable of bestowing even the rarest gift of transcendental devotional service to the Supreme Lord Narayan. So she's got the power to do that, just like we circumambulate Srimati Tulsi Devi, and we're offering prayers and we're asking at the end, Yani Kani Chapapani Brahma, by circumambulating you we can be freed from all sins. But there's so many other benedictions that can be achieved by understanding and approaching in a certain mood and using the mantras in different ways. So the Digvijaya, he got what he was desiring by the mercy of Mother Saraswati. So he's pretty happy with himself. He's achieved that benediction, and he heard about Navadvip as being a great centre of learning. So he went there with great pomp and ceremony, leading a procession of elephants, horses, and men. News spread like wildfire in every house of Navadvip, creating waves of confusion. Lord Chaitanya, when he was just early in his marriage, he gained a reputation as a great teacher, so he went to East Bengal to gain some resources, some facilities. Scholars, they would defeat, they would present, they would teach. Education is supposed to be for free. You can't charge, you can't force a teacher to teach you. The system with Vedic understanding, Vedic knowledge, is that we have to hear. We have to hear. We can do all the research and study ourselves, but unless we hear from a realized soul, a Tattvadashi, then and get their blessings, then it's not going to be sitting in our heart. It's not going to stay with us. So Lord Chaitanya, when you go and you actually have that effect, then you get people, they will come and they'll surrender their lives to you. And when they're doing that, then you get more facility, you get more ability to spread your teachings. The schools can expand. Now the other scholars, they started worrying. The other scholars, apart from Lord Chaitanya, they've got a different motive. Navadvip is the most famous centre of learning in the entire world. If the Digvijaya were to defeat our scholars, then Navadvip's glory would be minimized and the world would hear of our failure. And therefore they wouldn't be able to attract so many customers. They would be put down. No one has the courage to challenge him, for he is a recipient of Mother Saraswati's special benediction. It is said that Mother Saraswati herself appears upon his tongue whenever he speaks. How can a mere human defeat him? So all of the scholars, they bustled with excitement as the time for the trial of intellectual strength drew near. The scholars were distraught with anxiety and abandoned all activities. They were hiding. They didn't want to be caught in the crossfire between the Pandit, who has got the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, on the tip. She's controlling his tongue. There's another incident where Mother Saraswati is controlling the tongue. Ravan's brother, Kumbhakarna, he was asking for blessings from Lord Shiva. And as he was pronouncing the request in Sanskrit, Mother Saraswati tipped his tongue, so the word came out sideways. He was asking for Nityatvam, and the tongue got tipped and it said Nidratvam. So when the word is pronounced, then it should be upheld. Mother Saraswati said, Tadastu, so be it. You want Nidratvam, you can have eternal sleep. He said, hang on, that's not what I want. That's not what I meant. So she compromised. She said, okay, 6 months sleeping, 6 months awake. So she can tip the tongue and she can influence us. And it's said that you can look pretty good and you can appear to be learned, but a fool is revealed when he opens his mouth. what comes out of your mouth says a lot about what's the nature of your heart. And said what the heart is full of, then the tongue automatically speaks. So if you see yourself speaking all sorts of nonsense, then you've got to examine what's in the heart. There was a book about ecology written by Ranchor Prime, and he describes, it's a common Hindu understanding, that garbage in, garbage out. And the way that the environment is, that's the way we treat ourselves. We have disregard, disrespect for ourselves, disrespect for the environment. So that's what's automatically happening. If you have more of a simpatico with nature, then you'll treat it properly. So what is in the heart that manifests? People can say all sorts of nice platitudes, but the quality of the heart has to change. So that's the gossip that the pundit's coming, and Lord Chaitanya with all of his students, he wasn't concerned. They started gossiping. They started telling who's coming, what's going on. Lord Chaitanya heard his students, and then with a smile reminded them about the nature of the Absolute. Brahmana is fixed in Brahman, the Absolute. So the goings on of what's happening in the material, unless you can relate them back to the nature of the Absolute Truth, then they're just the playings of the material energy. Listen, brothers, and I'll tell you the actual situation. The Supreme Lord does not tolerate anyone who indulges in continual insolence. Whenever he finds someone burdened by arrogance over some personal quality, he invariably removes the cause of his or her pride. A fruit-laden tree and a person endowed with good qualities will inevitably bend down in humility. The Supreme Lord, and there's a list of different conquerors, did the Supreme Lord neglect to prune their overbearing pride? He never tolerates such ignominious insolence. Here in the Navadvip, you will witness the end of this supercilious scholar. Supercilious? You know what that means? We've heard of insolent, arrogant, and supercilious. Anyway, there's lots of ways of describing these puffed up scholars. So the next chapter says, the next paragraph says, the Lord amused himself with his students in this way. Superior. Okay, superior. Okay. Rather than when you have a lot of good qualities, like a tree laden with fruit, you're naturally inclined to bend down. I was hearing, Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu, who was a wonderful scholar, always asking, what is it you want to ask? But he would give very strong, very profound response. Not being frightened. It said that devotees sometimes get the reputation of being very proud, very arrogant, and very direct. It's okay when we're presenting Krishna. We're not proud on our own behalf. We're strong at presenting Krishna's words. It's not me saying, Prabhupada would often say, I'm not calling you a rascal, Krishna's calling you a rascal, but you can be very strong in those ways. So the Lord heard, and he was getting ready for the appearance of the Pandit. And but while he was discussing with his students, amusing himself with his students, he was contemplating how he could defeat the Pandit. This is his contemplation. This Brahmana has become extremely arrogant, and he thinks that there is no one in this world to defeat him, thought the Lord. So just witness, this is the mood of the Supreme Lord when he's dealing with people who are proud. This should be our mood when we're also displaying some pride and other people are dealing with us, or we find somebody who is caught up, puffed up and concerned about their own limited understanding. If I humble him in front of everyone, it will be like a shameful death for him. People will dishonor him, he will lose everything, and eventually he will die from humiliation. Therefore I must confront him secretly in a solitary place and yet ensure his downfall. In that way I can eclipse his vanity without destroying him. Absorb him in a higher truth. I first heard this narration in Mayapur. We went to the Ganga Puja celebration, and there's a description here of the setting on the banks of the Ganga where Lord Chaitanya students are sitting. It was a slightly different setting. There was tents and there was big events and big ghee lamps, and there was a rostrum, and Pankajangri Prabhu, he was sitting there. He was going to give the discourse, and it was hot and it was hard to concentrate. But he told this whole story about, in glorification of the Ganga, about Lord Chaitanya coming down the bank of the Ganges and having a conversation with the Digvijay Pandit. So I just felt that I'd experienced just like in the Vedas, in the Bhagavatam, somebody asks a question, then they refer to a previous conversation. Well, Narada Muni, he told Maharaj Yudhisthira or Prahlad Maharaj like this. So I heard from Pankajangri, so I looked, and I'd like to present this. It's not taken away from the Caitanya Caritamrita, that's still there, but we're just hearing from this side. While the Supreme Lord was thinking in this manner, the Digvijay arrived at the Ganga. As dusk faded into night, the river Ganga looked radiant beneath the full moon in the soft, clear sky. The Supreme Lord was effulgent in the midst of his students, and his exquisite beauty captivated the entire creation. A sweet smile decorated the glowing moon-like face of the Lord, and his two beautiful eyes showered transcendently merciful glances. Pearls are lackluster in comparison with his teeth, and his radiant lips are easily mistaken for the rising sun. With his soft and delicate body, he is the personification of compassion. His perfect head is covered with raven black curls. His graceful, lion-like neck rested perfectly on his beautiful broad shoulders. He was dressed in divinely exquisite clothes. His perfectly proportioned body was large, and his heart was ruled by his munificent nature. Poetry. Very poetic, the description. The Brahman thread hanging loosely across his shoulders was the bow of Anantashesh. His long arms extended gracefully to his knees, and the Urdhva Pundra Tilak, decorating his wide forehead, enraptured the hearts of everyone. Descriptions and then poetic descriptions. This is the art of the Kavi, the Kaviraj. With his dhoti tied elegantly at his waist, Sri Gauranga sat in the cross-legged posture of a yogi, establishing and refuting various arguments in his usual manner of discourse. Many students had gathered around Mahaprabhu that evening, and the Digvijay Pandit was astonished to see the wonderful assembly. Is this Nimai Pandit, he thought? So he asked one of the students, who is this person? This is the famous Nimai Pandit, replied the student. After offering his obeisances to the Ganga, the Digvijay moved a little closer to the Lord. Upon noticing him, Nimai smiled at him and affectionately offered him a seat. Having conquered all the scholars in the land, the Digvijay Pandit was naturally fearless. Yet in the presence of the Lord, he was filled with awe. The big demons, they're often fearless, and they're looking for a fight, and they hear that the Hiranyakashipu, he was challenging Nrsimhadev, huge form, but he, as a warrior, you just tie up your dhoti and you go for it. But sometimes there was some doubts, there was some concerns. So you carry on, and you might get a chance to approach a great devotee or approach. You have to be a little bit cautious. The Lord exchanged introductory words with the Pandit and then asked him a few questions. "You're an extremely versatile poet," said the Lord. "There is no subject which you cannot perfectly describe. Therefore, please elucidate the wonderful glories of the holy Ganga, so that whoever hears your glorification will be freed from sin." the Lord's contemplated how he's going to deal with the Pandit, so he's drawing him in to his little pastime. The Digvijay, he took the bait and off he went. He just started composing verses. This Chaitanya Bhagavat describes, he went on for 3 hours non-stop. It's just like flowing like the wind. And was it humanly possible to find a mistake in his eloquent compositions? There seemed to be no one present who could even properly follow them. And the students, they were just all of the audience, their mouths agape. They described, "Oh Lord Ram," they said, "how wonderful! Is it possible for a human to compose such eloquent poetry?" There seemed to be no end to his brilliant oration. When at last he finished, Lord Chaitanya, he heard from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, listening to him describe the Vedanta Sutra for 7 days non-stop. And he didn't speak anything. At the end, then he started to speak. So he waited, very submissive student, humble student. The Lord smiled sweetly and said, "Your poetry was so exceptional that no one can understand the meaning unless you yourself explain it. No one but you and Mother Saraswati. The verses you have composed are certainly appropriate for glorification of the Ganga, but we entreat you to analyze them for us. Not you're wrong and something crazy, but please, we don't understand. You can explain. You know, you're the one, you're the man in the big seat." The Lord's sweet words affected him like an intoxicating beverage, and he began to explain his verses. This is the effect of glorifying somebody, puffing them up. Okay, somebody's recognizing my glories, and they just relax. They become effulgent. So Lord Chaitanya, he's drawing him in further. As soon as he started to speak, the Lord interrupted him to point out 3 mistakes. One in the beginning, one in the middle, and one towards the end of his composition. The Lord said, "According to grammar, the figures of speech you have used show numerous imperfections. Please tell us in what context you have used them." Somebody might have a philosophy and it's completely off. And you can ask them, and eventually they will disclose, they will display for you themselves. And for you, they don't know what they're talking about. So better that they back off, they admit defeat, rather than them becoming all proud again and arrogant and trying to challenge you even further. Srila Prabhupada, he wouldn't criticize a person, he would criticize their philosophy. So what's the philosophy of such a person? And if the person was just making a lot of noise and attracting attention, he would remove the audience rather than degrading the person themselves. And they would eventually just sit down. Sometimes he would challenge them very strongly. You say you are God, G-O-D, you're not God, you are D-O-G, dog. So, but still, not meaning to harm them. So he's asking, can you tell us what context you've been using these phrases in? The Pandit lost his intelligence, foremost of the favourite sons of Mara Saraswati. He tried but failed to offer proper explanations for the mistakes that Nimai had pointed out. His feeble and confused attempts to defend his composition brought further criticism from the Lord, who then elucidated the flaws in the explanations as well as the verses. So this is where we can refer, this part of the Chaitanya Bhagavat doesn't go into much detail. There's more detail in the Caitanya Caritamrita. The Lord asked specifically, can you elaborate on this verse? And the Pandit, he tried to bluff. He tried to get out of the argument and said, well, I was reciting those verses like the wind. How can you remember any of them? So, and then how can you even dare to criticize them? He's just resorting to proud arguments. He's trying to put the Lord in a corner, the way he'd defeat other people. In the debate, people who are expert at debate, they'll use any means, even untruths, to establish a higher principle so that they can be claimed as the victor. Prabhupada said when you're engaged in debate, when you're engaged in discussing philosophy, there's a technique which you can use. You find a person's weak point, just like in martial arts. You find a person's weak point and you push on it until you kill them. You defeat them in certain different ways. So the Pandit is bamboozled. The Lord at this point steps in and he says, well, this is the verse I want you to explain. You've got the benediction of Mother Saraswati. I'm somehow blessed to be like a Shruti Dara. I can hear something once and I can memorize it. I've got this. It's not a photographic memory, but it's just that remains. It's the whole. You have that whole vivid experience of what was there. So he brought up a verse, and he pointed out, well, there's three, and there's the Sanskrit descriptions of what they are. They basically mean unclear pronunciations, redundancy. And there's also another type of fault. For instance, in describing the Ganges, the Pandit said the source of the Ganges, she is coming from Bhavani Bratri, how does it go? The husband of the wife. Bhavani means the wife of Lord Shiva. That's a known fact. So then the husband of the wife, it means Lord Shiva, but it's a redundancy. When you say language, you have to choose your words because language can be very precise. People can get, well, hang on, was, is, that, here, there, now, location, different things. So Bhavani automatically means Lord Shiva is her husband. So to say the husband of Bhavani implies that she's got another husband. So that's an unclear composition. And it's redundant. And other glorifications. There are other incorrect things that the Pandit used. Let me try and remember one. Govardhana Prabhu, he talks about different types of language, poetry. For instance, there's an example. The villages on the Ganga. So the villages on the Ganga, there's a direct meaning. And we can think about it. Villages on the Ganga, when we hear that, what does that mean? It does mean on the Ganga, on the river, there are villages floating. In some places there are floating villages. But if you take a secondary meaning, the villages on the Ganga means the villages on the banks of the Ganga. So an expression, words, can invoke thoughts, ideas. And poetry, which is very good, it employs a technique called dhvani, which means echoes. You're saying one thing, but it can mean another thing. And then even better than that is repeated echoes by saying a particular phrase. So Lord Caitanya, he dealt with the Pandit in this way. He became stunned, he couldn't speak. So Lord Caitanya, he takes the pressure off him and says, okay, I understand you're tired from travelling here, try and compose something else. But still, nothing's coming out. His tongue has been blocked, his intelligence has been blocked. So Lord Chaitanya pacified and said, you go home, study your books, chant your mantras, and we'll meet again tomorrow. So the Pandit, he sat there in a stunned, he'd just been thoroughly defeated, and he started to analyse. He was an intelligent person, and he analysed what was going on. He went home and eventually took rest, and in his dream, then Mother Saraswati, she appeared, and she described that, well, I'm going to reveal something to you, but you don't tell anybody. The person you're dealing with is my master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I felt ashamed to be in front of him, so, and therefore you should take advantage. Your pride, your the benedictions you've received from chanting this mantra, they brought you to the point where you've been able to see directly the Supreme Personality of God. So go there and take shelter of him. So next day they met again, and immediately the Pandit just fell down at the feet of Lord Chaitanya and started glorifying him and asking for mercy, asking for help. He became pacified. The Lord said, well, why? What happened? And then he partly revealed, but he didn't say the whole thing. He said, you're Lord Narayan. It's like not saying the Supreme Personality of God is Sri Krishna. And then this was the, what would you call it, the ruse that Lord Chaitanya used to curb the pride of this very proud scholar. He brought him close, he gave him a challenge, he drew out the poison, and then next day after meeting him, nullified all of the material desires within his heart, and he became, he eventually went back home, and he was just, he gave up all of his procession, his elephants, his fame, and he just became a humble Vaishnava. So, and when somebody of that caliber is converted to a Vaishnava, then they're also very good preachers. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was the leading Mayavad scholar of the time, and he became very quickly, overnight, transformed. And he also composed in a very swift fashion 100 verses glorifying Lord Chaitanya. So he became an authority also to get a very learned person, and that they become interested by their pride being curbed in preaching and spreading Krishna consciousness. They're very, very powerful, very valuable asset. So that's basically a synopsis. We've still got all the verses there. We could revisit and enjoy and learn more about this mood of the scholar and the pundit, and how you should approach this knowledge about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So does anybody have any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for your class. This is before Caitanya has taken sannyas, isn't it? And so I'm just asking, how old do you think he would be approximately?
He's just about to get married, or before he was saying he was married. 15, 16.
That's
like
amazing.
That. And he took sannyas when he was 24. But he could have been even older, because very soon afterwards his first wife died. He took a second wife, and she was actually able to spend time with the Lord for only a very short time. Then he took sannyas. So. But he was already a very reputed scholar at an early age.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. In this pastime, we see that Lord Chaitanya, he defeated the Pandit, and then we hear the pastime where there was a Pandit who was traveling, and then Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, they just said, okay, you won. They gave him the Vijay Patra, the flag of victory, and then their nephew Jiva Goswami challenged him. So sometimes we observe that the Vaishnavas, they can't be bothered with dealing with people who are want to philosophically argue and debate, and they just say, okay, yeah, you're right, you win, and then they focus on bhakti. But in this case, Lord Chaitanya, so was it because that Pandit had some humility that the Lord actually took time to?
That's described, yes. He could see the good qualities. And the Lord Chaitanya, he chose to preach through certain avenues. And he would get the big men, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Digbhata Pandit. He commissioned Lord Nityananda to go and preach in Bengal in a different field. So he captured many of these big personalities very quickly, and the conversion was like, it was Lord Nityananda who went and converted Jagai and Madai by giving them the mercy. So just different moods, different pastimes, and the Lord he certainly would, and then the acharyas, Rupa Goswami, they would also establish a mood in a particular way. Jiva Goswami, he was also renowned as the the greatest scholar at his time. So he was younger, and he got banished after that. He challenged the scholar who was claiming that he had defeated Rupa and Sanatana. He got banished. He was out of Rupa Goswami's favour for a couple of years. So different ways of dealing with people at different times. But you have to have the power. You have to be you have to know what you're speaking, what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay. Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Super silly.